Anthony, you've spent your early years bouncing between Michigan and Florida. An encounter with a bully in high school served as the catalyst for your go-ahead into the world of weightlifting. Unfortunately, the ego-driven approach resulted in lower back injuries and a need for rehabilitation. Through personal experiences and invested research, you have now learned from mistakes and regained almost all of your previous abilities. This humbling journey has given you a deep appreciation for the transformative power of resilience. Today, you continue to dedicate and educate others by uploading consistent content on spinal health and overall fitness across all social media platforms. Now, what I want to know is, do you think you are creative?
I'd like to think that I'm creative. My creative process is kind of inconsistent, I would say. What happens is I'll get random spikes, and especially some kinds of music can kind of help me going. Kind of like trance music can kind of help me get my creative juices flowing, the shower. And I make sure that I always get my notes ready, because I mean, like my notes are just full. I have ideas 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in my phone. And there's just tons of notes with all those. So, yeah, my creative process is pretty all over the place.
It's just pretty sporadic, but like even like idea dumping, do you have that pretty organized and clear? I mean, because I have so many different note sections in my phone for just lyrics and potential song ideas. I have just what I want to do with my business, or just even general video fun ideas. And sometimes some are a little bit more organized than others, where like I'll like note it a certain way and delegate it a certain other way, and then other times I'll look back and be like, this is a complete mess.
It's kind of messy.
Yeah.
But I will say I do have like categories. So
Okay.
I'll have like blog ideas,
Yeah.
video ideas, podcast ideas. So I have a lot of idea sections in there. But I mean, overall, if someone else looked at it, it looked pretty messy.
Yeah. Did you always think that you were creative, or like have that neat, or just like those ideas that would spark up into your brain?
Honestly, not really. It's just like I need to be passionate about the thing.
Okay.
And I mean, like, you know, like back stuff wasn't always interesting to me.
Yeah.
And now that I have a disc injury, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. So even going back to high school, so you had being from Michigan, you had an encounter with a bully. Did that bully inspire you to go into the gym, or was it one of those things where like, I'm tired of getting bullied, I got to take action in my own hand, and how to do that is lift some weights?
So there's actually kind of two reasons why I started lifting. One of them was the bully. And yeah, it was just like, I mean, no one likes to get bullied, you know, to not feel in control.
Right.
And I just wanted to get that control back. So that was one of the catalysts. And the other one was, I guess they're both humiliation. So the other one was humiliation. I had my weightlifting class, and I wasn't paired up with anyone. So the last two people were me and this girl. We were good friends, but she outlifted me by like 30 pounds, and it was on the bench press.
Okay.
And I mean, everyone laughed at me, and it was traumatizing because I was just so painfully weak.
Yeah.
So the combination of those two things were kind of the big catalyst. So, it kind of like, again, it was born from ego.
Okay.
It was like,
yeah.
Ego destruction. So from both aspects. And that's kind of, that's where it all started.
Were you the lowest in that class, and the girl was kind of, so it was obviously a co-ed weightlifting thing, and that was just like, at least I'm not going to be the last one.
Exactly.
And then it's just like, oh shit, this happened.
Exactly. She crushed me. So I mean, like, that was bad. And the football team was in there, not the whole football team.
Yeah, but felt like the whole football team probably.
And then that was the whole semester. I didn't actually start during that period, but that kind of like started the internal the internal battle.
What grade was that?
Oh man. I want to say either 9 or 10.
Okay.
9 or 10.
Yeah. So it was really kind of weightlifting class that brought you in there. Then having those just personal experiences really just kind of, I wouldn't, trigger's kind of the wrong word to use, but really just kind of sparked something in your head a little bit. Yeah. That's funny. My, I played soccer through high school, and then like 9th grade, I didn't really actively do anything. And I kind of even remember just having trouble falling asleep. And then my dad was always the one that's like, well, you don't do anything. And I'm like, damn, what do you mean by that? He's like, well, yeah, he's like, well, you go to school, you play music, but you're not like actually like exhausting and exercising your body. So of course, when it's time to go to bed and lay down, your brain's running mile like crazy, and your body's not technically really tired to go to sleep. And you don't really have kind of like that mind muscle connection to even just meditate yourself to relax and be calm. But it wasn't really for my brother's always been an athlete, and I remember my dad just put some stuff in the garage, and they were always working out, and I just kind of would look around the corner, and after my soccer season in 10th grade, because we didn't really do any weight training, we just did kind of like soccer styled workouts, and then postseason, when I should have been kind of doing my off-season scheduled workouts, I'm like, I'm gonna have fun and just go to the gym. But my introduction to it was very welcoming with like my brother and my dad, and we just kind of worked out like in a certain way. But it's funny because I always hear people's introduction to the weightlifting class and stuff was either through class in high school or just like a certain experience in their life where it's like, I got to take this into my own hands.
Yes, exactly.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So, did the ego lifting, as kind of we just coined the phrase, when did that kind of start coming about? So you're into into weightlifting a little bit more in high school?
Yeah, I mean, like the ego lifting kind of came more as, I mean, you get newbie gains pretty quick when you first start.
Yeah, dude, right? Exactly.
you really start putting on the sort of mass, but mainly the strength.
When did the ego start kind of coming together for you in the gym? I don't know, was that like a mindset that really just kind of started trickling in, or was that something that was like kind of always living in there?
Oh, I mean, the ego definitely could have been there. I've always been really competitive.
Okay.
So, I mean, like even to this day, I'm just like absolutely competitive about anything. Me and my girlfriend were actually building a shelf. And I was trying to beat her on who could get the nails down the fastest. I mean, she's like literally everything. But I mean, so yeah, I do think there was an element of that was always inside of me. But I mean, it definitely came out once I just started to see that strength, and it was definitely a problem.
Yeah. Especially early on with like weightlifting too, and even being that prime early age of high school, it's almost like this instant gratification of stuff where like you're working out, you're hitting that preacher curl, you're just crushing, and your arms are just, you're feeling your arms are like 30 times the size than they actually are. Exactly. And then people are like, man, you've been working out, you look good. And it's just like feeds it a little bit more.
Wearing tighter shirts.
Yeah, right, exactly. Oh my gosh, exactly. But I mean, even kind of going out of that, so you've been able to like mainly have weightlifting in your life. It was a big part of your lifestyle. It wasn't just something that was in high school because of the class and then just went away, right?
Exactly. I mean, like I went all in. I was buying all the gear, so I had like the arm straps, the gloves. I mean, the knee wrap. I had everything with it. I mean, the form wasn't there.
Yeah.
But I mean, my mind was definitely in it, and I was sold. I mean, like that was kind of like how I pictured getting out of the hard times that I had from the weightlifting class and from getting bullied. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of like we're in it together for now, forever.
Right.
At this point.
And was it like after high school you kind of came down to Florida?
Yeah. I mean, like right after high school is when we started to move more frequently. But yeah.
How was that transitional process from Michigan to Florida?
It was kind of rough. Yeah. I mean, like it was during the college time, so you already kind of had to make more friends, like new friends. So I will say that was probably better that it happened during that period of time. But I mean, like it's kind of hard to make friends as a guy. Coming into the new one, you're like, you don't want everyone to think you're hitting on them or something.
Right, so right, yeah.
It was kind of tough, but I mean, it worked out.
Yeah, that was because I always thought it must have been so tough just growing up. People who moved around so many different times, so many different friends, and then as like the adult age, they're always the ones to say like, I kind of liked it because I got to see a lot of the world in a certain way. But having that prime slot where you're graduating high school, I mean, kind of it's very normal for people to kind of move around and go to different
college and all that
stuff. Yeah, a bunch of different stuff. Did you feel like you were able to kind of learn something from just like relocating and just being able to absorb new culture and new ideas and new people? I don't know if that kind of, sometimes it helps me just being in a whole different environment that just kind of like feeds my brain a little bit.
Honestly, I don't think at that period of my life I was like ready to absorb that. Mm-hmm. I mean, I remember before I went over to Europe, I didn't care anything about art. And after I went over there and came back, I was all like experiencing the cultures, which is so much different. So I had a whole new appreciation. So I don't think I was ready at that moment to really experience everything and learn the most out of it.
When did you go to Europe?
Around 2017.
Okay, so come down here from Michigan, live in the Florida lifestyle, and then did you have like a reason to go to Europe, or you just wanted to experience more of the world?
That's a good question. I think I just wanted to travel.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, again, I would have a different reason now just to experience the culture more. And I think before it was just to kind of say that I went.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, the reasons are way different now. Way more respect for the cultures.
One episode we did like a few months ago. It's crazy now that this podcast, even just me and you being in the room, it took like 6 months in the making. Yeah. I mean, back in January, we were supposed to sit down and do this, but then I got freaking T-boned, and then that was the whole thing with my mentality of getting T-boned, having to do with that, having to deal with all the stuff behind that too, and then my own freaking mental health where I'm like, dude, just screw everything. I'm put everything on hold for a little bit. And I feel like when it rains, it pours, but didn't want to let that to be an excuse. But anyways, I think it was like episode 2 or 3, an artist, Devin, she's a muralist, incredible good friend, but she was saying that traveling a lot for her is what really kind of helped with her inspiration and her growth as like an artist and stuff too. So I found it pretty interesting that you're like, not until I really went to Europe and kind of experience more of the world that started opening itself up.
Yes. That's awesome. She got to experience that too.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So even you being in Europe in like 2017, was kind of fitness still a big part of your life? That's why I'm trying to kind of find the relationship where like weightlifting started kind of like in that adolescence time and moving to Florida, and obviously that carrying with you down here. But did you always kind of have this plan to have fitness in your life to be something as like a career?
As a career, no. But as like in my life, yes. I mean, every aspect of it is just so fun to me, entertaining. Like when I wake up on a Saturday morning, I'm so excited for the gym to open so I can go. So it's always been a really important part of my life. But as far as like becoming like an actual trainer, that was probably around when I moved to Florida, again, back and forth, around the 2020 era.
Okay.
And that was just, I started off as a very basic trainer. So, I mean, I didn't really have any kind of like ambition with it. So I didn't really know where I was going with that direction, or even if I would stay in that whole, in this field. But I mean, like once I got the back injury and had to put the ego aside, that rekindled like my love for like research and actually kind of started it, I would say, because that was the first time I really started to dive into like, how do we get rid of this problem?
So you had a major back injury. That was kind of the straw that tipped the back, or whatever the expression is called. You know what I mean, though. So you had that one particular injury that happened?
It was one. It was more like an issue that I didn't let recover, that turned into another issue, that turned into another issue. So I imagine that the first one was definitely like a bulge.
Okay.
And then it kind of progressed to the herniation and then some neurological symptoms. And then they have since gone away, but it was definitely a problem. I kept putting it off because you can kind of heal relatively fast for some people, depending on the injury.
Right.
But I mean, like the most I would have pain for is like a week to 2 weeks, and then it'd be gone. And then the ego would kick back in. And then I would overdo it again, and then I'll be back in the same spot. And then it got to the point where it was kind of chronic, where I always had a baseline level of back pain. And then I knew, I'm like, this is a problem now. Like I can't keep pushing this off to the side. And then that's when I started getting like really serious about it. And it's unfortunate I had to get to that point. But I mean, like, it's just that's me.
Yeah, no, I mean, exactly. Sometimes people need to have that moment where they're like, I'm fine, until they're on the floor of the kitchen and they can't move, and they're like, shit, I can't even get up at this point. So you didn't get to that point, right? You just had like the pain kind of come and then go away, and then come and then go away, but it was something where it's like, this keeps coming back and I don't know why, and I need to kind of get this figured out.
I mean, it's a tough terrain too to navigate, because I mean, like, back pain, there's so many different reasons for it. So, I mean, like, you can type in how to fix back pain on Google all day long. And, I mean, you're going to get so many different answers. And then some are going to work and some won't. And then you don't know why they do or don't work. So, it's tough. It's tough.
Dude, it's extremely tough. For like the longest time too, I had such a bad back. I had like my lower left to the point where I would have to like lay down on solid floor and just breathe for 5 minutes just to feel kind of centered again.
Same.
And then it even got to the point where I would only squat 135 at the gym, like 4 sets for 10, and by like my 4th set, I just felt like my core was so tight, and I'm like, maybe this is how it's supposed to be doing. I didn't really feel it in my legs at all. It was always into my core and my back, and then I would always have like these random like pins and needle spikes, and I'm like ooh sort of thing, even like sitting a certain way. And then I remember a really bad moment. I was at Culture Room in Fort Lauderdale at a concert with my wife and my sister, and there was two just troubled teens in front of me, just getting into a bunch of trouble at a concert, like woo, whatever. And one girl just hit like this huge blunt or something, and just passed out. And she passed out in front of me. My reaction's like, oh my gosh! But as I did this, my back started going out. So I'm like, oh no! And then I just like started like falling into the floor next to her, and I look, I'm like Tia and Emily, I'm like, help me. And then like I kind of get up a little bit too. But at that point where I'm like, I have to figure out what exactly is going on. So I went through like this whole process and journey of trying to find exactly what was wrong with my back. So I'm like, maybe I'm squatting wrong with the bar, and I would just like not even use barbell squat. I would just do like air squats, just making sure my form is perfect. Still wasn't really doing it. I was like, maybe it's my shoes and the orthotics that I'm wearing, or a lack of what I'm wearing. It wasn't really the case either. And I went to a chiropractor. I went to an acupuncturist too, which was incredible because they offered and showed me so many things about myself that I didn't really know it was there. But the back was still an issue. But the one thing that was the tipping point, which completely changed everything. Do you know? Guess what it was?
Oh man. I don't know. Just your movement quality in general. I mean,
mattress.
Oh man,
dude, a good mattress. Because and I didn't notice that too until my shoulders started hurting, and I'm like, oh my god, it's my mattress. I remember laying down because I couldn't lay on my side. My back hurt too bad. I couldn't lay on my stomach because my back hurt too bad. I had to just sit there and just like count back from a million until I fell asleep every night. And my shoulders one night were just, I felt like they were rolling forward, and I was like, oh my god, it's my mattress, because like I was in a freaking little cave sort of thing. And then the moment I got a new mattress, day and night difference. And then at that point, my quality of life with everything else started to improve. I was able to like actually understand my form and working out properly a little bit more. I was actually being able to appreciate other qualities of life without just being uncomfortable and wondering when my back's eventually going to give out. Even stretching too was a little bit bearable. So like even letting it and going back to you with like and ego lifting is also just like a funny coin term, but I feel like ego lifting stems from so many different things. I mean, you being like naturally competitive at heart.
Exactly.
So, and over the years, maybe it was like improper form, just
oh, for sure,
just neglect a little bit too, and just kind of finding
like overdoing it would be the same thing. I'd max out on squats, deadlifts in the same week, a couple days apart. Like my body was just begging for mercy, and I'm like, no.
Yeah. No. And that was the thing, is like the moment I kind of found the issue was like really stemmed from my mattress, I was able to pay attention to little things like that, where I'm like last week,
you're not constantly flared up, so you can like be able to tell a little bit more like what is getting you more irritated.
Yeah. So I mean, I wasn't being able to like max out every week because I was able to like actually listen to my body, and not my body wasn't just in such crazy shock all the time. So even relating it back to you with what you're saying as far as having that moment where like I really kind of need to get my back checked out. So take me through that process. Like you're at the ledge, and you're like, I need to change my life with my back. So take me through that process. Did you call a doctor? Did you immediately go online? Like how did you start kind of like reworking the system to yourself?
Man, it was actually a pretty well, first off, I called the doctor, and I went over there. I got assessed. I really didn't get much out of it. I got an X-ray, didn't show anything. So they're like, "You're good." And I was like, maybe an MRI might show it, because that could show like a disc injury or whatnot. And I kind of thought that was the problem, but they were like, "Nah, we don't need that." And I'm like, "Okay." And then the doctor told me a few stretches, and they're like, "Can you touch your toes?" And I came in there like bent to the side, and then they're like, "Can you touch your toes?" I'm like, "I can't bend over." So then at that point, I basically knew that this was in my hands at this moment. And I was like, how am I going to fix myself? And I mean, the medical system, they kind of let you down a lot of the time. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's tons of people out there, like the chiropractors, massage therapists, doctors, who know a ton about lower back stuff. But then there's a lot who don't know anything.
Yeah.
And I kind of got a bad draw with that. I also went to the chiropractors. One of the ones that's kind of like very basics, so the same, stretches.
Yeah.
And, you kind of leave and you're like, maybe
Yeah.
that helped a little bit. But then, the next day you're at the same level. So basically, again, like I said, it just came down to me, and I was like, where do I find the resource to kind of figure out how to get around this? And I mean, to say there's one resource would be inaccurate. I mean, there was just tons of different things I would have to study. One of my favorite people is Dr. Stuart McGill, and he's been great for the lower back aspect. But I mean, there's just tons of resources you have to go over. You got to test. That's one of the biggest things about back pain. It's like, I feel like too many people are going after they're just going like right for the solutions. They're like back pain solution search. And it's just kind of like, you got to know more about why it's happening. Like, what's causing it? I mean, just typing the solution, do this stretch to heal your back pain. I mean, sure, that might work for somebody, but then again, that could make somebody else worse. So like a hamstring stretch, for instance, that can irritate the sciatic nerve. So for one person who doesn't have like a sciatic component, that might feel great. And that could loosen up some things in the hips. But for someone else, that could be detrimental, and that could put them in the bed for the next week. So, I mean, like, I really think people just need to identify and understand more about their lower back pain. What hurts it? Like, I mean, like, we're talking like A to Z. We need to know everything that hurts it, bending over a certain way, twisting. All these things are things people never know. Whenever I have the first consultation with people, it's the same thing. I ask, like, what hurts your back? And they're like, well, bending hurts it. And they will do like 2 tests, and both of them will hurt. And I'm like, you didn't know that? And they're like, not really. And it's just kind of like, it hurts though, right? I mean, you just got to know more about your pain. You can't go in blind.
The beginning of the journey, was it a little bit overwhelming where you're just like, this is freaking back pain, and I didn't go to school for this or anything. I'm not a doctor. I mean, I'm trying, and it's the internet. There's just so much pool of information, and exactly with what you said, there's not just, I wish it was that easy, especially going back to me where I'm like, oh, this with my back, done. But the fact that I went through like this long journey of trying to find the mattress, I discovered about like, even like the one chiropractor, his name's Jordan. I can't remember exactly his business, but it was incredible because he was a gym bro, and he had like a squat rack in his spot too. So I remember one time he asked me, he's like, let me see your squat form. And then we squatted, I squatted, and he was kind of just like giving me some little bit of pointers. He was talking about like my hip flexors too. And he showed me certain stretches to do. Like if you're about to do a squat day, you should kind of do some stuff like this. So he was kind of giving me tools and understanding a little bit more, because if I immediately saw the mattress and I'm like, that's the issue, all these other little things that I was kind of on my journey to do wouldn't really hold any value, and I might have to be tripping over these other things to even understand it a little bit more. So going back to kind of your research, how did you research and then like implement it into practice, and then go back and be like, oh, this is stuff that's working?
I mean, basically, it was just like, I always look at the test first. And I didn't always start out with this first. I mean, like, I did go down the same route of like trying to get to the solution first. Because, I mean, it's a scary process. Because, I mean, you'll check of like what a disc herniation is, what a disc bulge, what sciatica is. And it's all intimidating. And when you see the different prognoses, I mean, like, it's scary. So, I mean, like, as far as what I did with my experience, I basically just, I found out what irritated it. And then I kind of worked backwards. Something fairly recent in the past, like around 9 months, I was getting done with my back day, and I was kind of irritated constantly. I was like, man, I'm like, this isn't right. And that's kind of what I had to realize the most myself. It's just kind of like, what are you actually ready for at this moment? Because I mean, like, comparing yourself to what you were before is something very common. I still do it too. But I mean, it's like, you aren't where you were before, so you can't treat yourself how you used to treat yourself. So that was always like a big thing for me as well. You're like, oh, I could squat 420 back in the day. I should at least be able to squat, something lower than that.
Yeah.
But it's like, it doesn't matter what you used to squat. It matters like what you can handle now with the proper form and what your back can handle.
I mean, it's almost like those badasses that do jujitsu that are like less than like half the size of me, but they can kick my ass sort of thing. But I mean, they're not in the gym squatting 500 pounds. So, I mean, their quality of life and like their training and like their purpose too is a little bit different. So even like going to the gym, it's like, what are you what are you training for? What's your purpose? I mean, unless it's like a whole kind of your thing, this is like your mental clarity, this is like your therapy to like throw around some weights, which I respect and I get that too, because I, for a long time too, I mean, even like a lot in this area, like a lot of the gyms have been shutting down or like opening back up, or some like new, and some of them are a little bit more expensive, but I recently got back into a gym, and just nice. That's not like my parents' garage where I have to move 1,000 things just to move this rack out a little bit. But I'm grateful for anything. But being able to be in a gym and have accessibility to more machines and all this weight too, and then you start feeling comfortable. You get into like your flow and your groove. And I'm like, man, I'm doing this for reps. Put a little bit more weight. Put a little bit more weight. Put a little bit more weight. See the form kind of going down, and then you like how you feel. You feel it a little bit the next day. You're like, this is a little bit different from when I was early in high school or early in college, where you can just overload everything and then just be able to recover like immediately.
No sleep, eating ramen.
Exactly. No sleep. Hey, bring that mic a little bit closer if you don't mind. Beautiful. But even with so going into your research, implementing it into practice, and then I'm sure kind of because I could tell you're extremely passionate about it, and you're not just all fluff and words. You have like the real experience. You have it come from somewhere deep down close, and you're able to kind of articulate your thoughts and emotions and really kind of help people with it. So how did that go from just an idea you implement into practice to kind of have it kind of growing some legs and rolling down like, hey, I want to do something in this subject field. So when did that kind of like really kind of show itself a little bit more?
Honestly, when I started to see results, I mean, when I really started to be able to piece things together, and that was not without its struggle. I mean, it cost a ton of money. I had to buy a ton of stuff, but I mean, when I saw like it's possible to get out of this, and it's like it's hard to imagine that when you're in it, because I mean, like I had times where I couldn't get out of bed for 5 days, and it was just excuse me, it was just painful.
You want some Fiji water? We got some bougie stuff.
Got some bougie water.
I'll drink some of that with you, dude. This is not sponsored, but
I wish.
Shit, man, if they do, they know who to call.
Man, you know who it is.
Oh yeah.
The throat guy. He's like
what do you need? You need Fiji, whatever it is.
Fiji water, yeah.
It's water.
Water.
It's water. It'll help you and I'll help your back.
Exactly. When I started to see results, because that was when everything really materialized, and I saw like I can get back to doing the things that I used to love to do. I love to run, and that's one of the things I'll never give up, because it's just so nice, and it ties in with vacation too, because you can like when I went to France, I was running a ton.
That's awesome.
And every place I just ran. And actually, fun fact, I found this little weird church in these like back alleyways in I think that was actually Italy, but it was so amazing. It's like you wouldn't have found that if you weren't just mindlessly running around.
Running's been the greatest thing I started doing. Running sucks regardless. I mean, yes. I will, even if I'm running 20 miles a day, which I'm not, but even if I'm have like a 6-minute mile, even if I was the best, I would still say just running just kind of sucks, especially now it's summer. It's so freaking hot outside. So hot. But I mean, it's taught me so much about resilience and just being,
you can think. You can think during this time, and you get ideas, and it's wonderful. And I had to put that off for a long time, longer than I probably should have, because I mean, it's probably around a year-ish. Mm-hmm. And part of me didn't want to try to start running again, because I was scared that I wouldn't be able to, because the back pain was getting to the point where, I could get probably like 1/3 of a mile or something. I'd be like, and then I'd have to stop. Yeah. Maybe a painful walk back. Maybe the glute was starting to kind of send some nerves down. And it was scary, because it's just kind of like, at a young age, in your like mid-20s, and then you're already at that point where you're like having that kind of trouble. So I kind of pushed running on the back burner. And when I was finally able to inch my way back into running, and we're talking about starting slow. So, I mean, like, we're talking like barely end of a mile, just inching up as you go, taking breaks in between. I finally got back up to the point where I can run confidently again. And that was big for me, huge. And obviously the lift started coming back as well. I went back to a lot of cable stuff to kind of work on the core and hip involvement. But yeah, once I just started to see everything flow together, it was a beautiful moment, just to be like, this is it. Like, we can get back to what we were doing.
Did you have that click moment where it's like, this is actually working. This doesn't hurt anymore. And I can actually take the stuff that I'm researching, implement it, and then now actually get almost like this instant gratification. Was it even instant gratification, or was it something over time where you're like, I don't even feel this anymore? This stuff is actually working.
I would say that instant gratification in some ways, like if you can do a certain primer that works well for you, you could see a difference pretty much instantly when you have more activity going on in the muscle supporting the spine. So you could see some instant gratification, but the whole long-term chronic pain going from like an 8 down to like a 2,
right,
that was like significant and not instant. But I mean, like, you're starting to do things more often. You get to the end of the day and you're not kind of like crooked sideways. Like that was just like, it kind of slowly weaned down, but that was amazing.
Well, especially with like back pain and just kind of body aches and injuries. I love the analogy of just kind of what you talked about, of like going on YouTube, stretches that fix my back. Exactly. And then you're just like, 1, 2, 3, boom, I'm fixed. I'm easy. Here we go. Time to go party. No, it's never really like that. Even I like the way, I didn't know that you enjoyed running that much because, dude, especially traveling too and just being able to throw some shoes on and just even go like indulge yourself into like what's out there.
Absolutely.
What kind of runs would you do? Would you like, are you just like 3 miles, kind of book it and move, or are you just like 5 miles and just kind of nice little stroll?
I did cross country in the past, and that was obviously a competition. But now, I mean, like, I run slow. I mean, we're talking like 10-minute miles.
That's a pace. Yeah, it's a good pace.
Like 3 to 4 miles.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, I really want to just absorb. And I'm a big looker too. So I'm always like eyes are on the ground or on like the surrounding. But I mean, like, I always like to find cool rocks too. So, I mean, like, I'm like that person. So,
oh my gosh.
I got a little rock collection upstairs from when I'm running.
Really?
I mean, it's like that. And then, yeah, it's just a great way for me to connect. And it's just like to get to that creativity state. I mean, that's another one of the ways I get to it.
Yeah, I mean, and also the amount of information of like podcasts and stuff too. It's great, but also sometimes I'll take my time and be like, all right, this is what I'm going to use to listen to this podcast. I'm just going to go run until the podcast is over, and then I'm going to kind of take it at my own pace. Sometimes I'll go and be like, I'm going to do 3 miles super hard and to no music or to music. And I mean, like, my parents live kind of relatively close to where I live, so and I know they got an ice bath set up, so I'll do like,
I like that.
Yeah, dude, I'll do like a whole workout plan as far as like run as hard as I can, set that bath up, and just freaking jump right into it. And it's super nice. But and sometimes running without headphones. Oh, dude, it sucks, but by like after mile 1, you start like thinking about some certain stuff, where if it's like a project or even like starting like a creative venture of any kind, where you have so many, I mean, even with me, I've had to learn, because I'm just like a very high proactive, just thoughts and brains always kind of just bouncing back and forth. Going to run has really kind of taught me to like compartmentalize. And that's why I like the ice bath too, because I mean, if you don't know how to meditate, or you don't really know how to like figure it out, that will absolutely force you to kind of be present and in that moment.
Well, again, respect to the no headphones. And I can't do podcasts when I run. Really? I mean, it's just like I like to take a lot of notes when I do my podcast, and I think it's just too distracting for me. Oh, okay. And it's like, I don't know if it's just like I can't retain it as well or something, but I mean, I'm definitely more of a music kind of guy with that. And I've never had an ice bath either.
Ever?
I've never.
Oh, dude, we're gonna change that. We got to change that for you.
I would definitely be open to trying. 100%.
Yeah, dude, that will help.
Cold showers.
Dude, yeah, you do cold.
Actually, it's a funny story. My water has been out for the past like 2 months. Okay. And the hot water.
Yeah, I was gonna say no showers at all.
No. So no, it's been freezing cold showers in the morning, and it's like getting in that shower. I don't know if I'm just like wimpy or something, but I gotta like charge up. Like, I just jump in that shower like I'm freaking going to a football game. I'm like, let's go.
Dude, besides all the health benefits and whatnot, I mean, me and you, we got beautiful hair. It helps my hair. Does it help your hair?
I don't think I really noticed any difference.
Oh, my gosh. But, okay, so even kind of going back to fitness and back rehab, being able to do these things for yourself and seeing that it's actually working, at that point, I mean, even with me, when I find something good, I feel like I want to share it with somebody. Was that something that you kind of related to?
Yeah. I mean, like, I've helped so many people out for free, because it's just like, it's nice.
But how did that start? Were you just kind of like, oh my gosh, I have just this thing that's worked for me, and I know that you've had kind of an issue with your back. Have you tried doing something like this? Or did people approach you? Or how did that even just kind of form?
You know, we're in the gym, I mean, like, you know, sometimes you'll waste some time on the bench or whatnot, and you'll talk to somebody, one of your friends, Sorry, everybody.
Yeah, yeah.
But
It's better than sitting on your phone.
Exactly. But no, so like the lower back pain comes in. And I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I will unorganically bring it up ever so often just because I like to talk about back stuff.
Oh, dude, on brand.
Exactly. And, everyone's like, oh, yeah, it's like I don't really squat anymore because my back. And then I'm like, hey. So, I mean, like, I love to kind of like insert that into things. So it comes pretty unnaturally.
Yeah. And it's such a fun dance to play sometimes, especially at the gym, because that's like the last thing some people want to hear. It's just like, oh, I can't squat 'cause my back. It's like, well,
we can do stuff there.
Yeah, let me just tell you right now and tell you how to kind of do your form and stuff
perfect.
too. Yeah, I mean, dude, I bet you kind of cringe to death at the gym looking at someone squatting when they're rolling their back or doing the
deadlifts,
or the deadlift.
squats.
Oh, especially deadlifts.
But I see that in myself, like how I used to be too. So it's kind of like, I'm not gonna be the one to go up to somebody deadlifting
Of course,
and say like, hey, there's a problem here. But I mean, like, it is hard to resist doing that. But I mean.
So at the gym, what are 3 exercises that are just to throw away? They're so bad for your back. Because I mean, you're even mentioning the farmer carries are not really the best thing for your spine and back. But is there 3 exercises that you're like, don't even bother doing this?
I mean, it really depends on the person's injury, or if somebody doesn't have an injury at all. I mean, it's definitely less picky when you don't have an injury. But I would say that, crunches. Oblique twists, sit-ups, side bends.
Okay.
All those ones are pretty not ideal.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it comes back to somebody's end goal. Like, why are you in the gym? So, I mean, if somebody's like just trying to get a 6-pack and they're not really worried and they really want to, I mean, because like sit-ups can get a lot of rectus activity.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, people swear by doing certain sit-ups, and sit-ups always for me were just so painful on my back. And I just was always trying to like find a way to make it comfortable. And other people were like, oh, try doing this. And I would like hang and do like the spine kind of for the lower part too.
Yeah.
But there's certain machines at the gym that I've felt comfortable with on my back, and also taking like the ropes too. Then you do the crunches as well. So it's not so much tension and pressure on my lower back, but I found those things and I've been trying to just milk it as much as possible. Because that's another thing too as well. I had really no ab strength. I was really trying to rely on just doing really heavy constructive front squats or back squats and just really trying to contract my abs. I'm like, this will grow my abdominals well, which in a sense it did, but I felt like I was neglecting it a certain way too, rather than exactly with what you're saying. There's a problem here. Let's try to fix this problem by maybe trying this way, or this way, or this way, really being creative with solutions.
I mean, I like the approach too, because you're kind of trying to go, you're not trying to do single joint exercises with that. You were trying to, again, get it with like the front squats, kind of like the whole body working together synergistically, which is a great approach unless you have different elements that are dysfunctional for whatever reason. So
how about deadlifts?
Whether they're bad or not?
Yeah, I mean, because some people are just like my back. I blew like a disc, and now I can't deadlift at all. I know some people who kind of do like the farmer octagon carry sort of thing too as well. That like that feels more relief on my back, and I can feel it actually working. Other people are just like, I only feel it in my hamstrings.
I think the deadlifts are a tricky subject. I don't want to say they're bad because fundamentally it is a hip hinge. And I mean, like as a human, you need to be able to hinge from the hips. Now, whether or not you need to max out from the hips, that's up for debate. But I mean, I would say like the deadlift can be in most people's workout routine if it's at the appropriate weight and at the appropriate time. Like if somebody's like flared up from a lower back pain, maybe they should step back and work on body weight hinges for the time until they can even consider something like that. I mean, another alternative would be the rack lift, the
rack pulls.
Rack pulls, yes. And that one would be an excellent because you're not going down as far. So different range of motion requirements don't have to be met when you have the bar higher up. So those are all factors when it goes into it. So I never want to say like a blanket ban, but I mean that one is definitely a tricky one. But I would go as far to say that most people probably shouldn't be doing it with their current form. So that's one thing I can probably confidently say.
Yeah, there's always room for improvement when it comes to form, and especially with the little ego that we all have within ourselves too, where you're looking over and you see that person that's just bench pressing 30 pounds more than you in that class, and you're like, I don't want to be the one.
I actually, this is shameful. I will forever look at this as shameful, but my I think it was probably like a tweak about two years ago, but I was feeling pretty good with everything. And I was deadlifting again. I think I didn't have much weight on. It was like 275-ish. And I saw a guy far away. He was all the way across the gym, and he was doing, it was like 305 or something. And I was like, I can do 315 again. And I literally like started to pick up the weight, and I could just feel this was too much because I had taken the breaks because, again, it was the same thing with the inconsistent back tweaks. And I like started the weight, and I was like, this is too much. I said it in my head out loud.
No, then it's
and then
right
I was
there.
like, no, like I got this. And I got it halfway, and then I did a twerk. And that little twerk was just kind of like the spine going like in and out of flexion. And oh my goodness, I like threw the weight down, and then I like went over to the side, and I was like, didn't even unrack the weight. I just like walked out. I just like grabbed my keys. I walked out, just sat in my car, and I'm like, was that worth it? Like he didn't even know I was there.
Oh my
like,
God,
that was all
that's
me.
so funny.
And it's like that was just. I'm like forever gonna hate myself for that because that was a bad one. That was a bad tweak.
Were you in the car just looking at yourself like this was my own doing?
It was just exactly. There's like the mirror. It's like right there. And
yeah, especially that's what I'm thinking. You're in the car. You're just looking at that mirror like.
Are you happy about that?
Yeah. Like why did you do that? I had a similar situation. I was I took way too much pre-workout because I mean that was right at that era, and then I was doing just a nice arm workout. And I was doing some skull crush laying down, and again, wasn't so much weight, but it was working weight.
Yeah.
And I not focusing on what I'm doing. I'm not focusing on my mind muscle body connection. I'm not focusing on I'm working out for me. I'm not working out for somebody else. I'm doing it for myself. And I look over to somebody talking and seeing what they're doing. And the moment I'm doing that, my freaking neck tweaks so bad. No. And I just like threw the weight down, and I just try to ignore it. And it just wasn't going away. And I'm like, I can either just muscle through this workout, or I'm like, actually, there's an issue here. And I don't want. So I looked at my buddy. I'm like, I fucked up.
You're like,
and I'm So I went in the car, looked at kind of that mirror moment, but then I'm also just tweaking in profusely on this like freaking pre-workout.
That was the beginning of the workout?
Yeah, exactly. Right at the first exercise, right at the beginning of the workout. I'm just sitting there. I'm just like, just trying to pound water just to kind of just flush everything out. Like, dude, oh my gosh, exactly. The pins and needles and all the tingles. But so what are 3 workouts that you would say that are very good for your back? Because I mean, something that I do for my lower back that I like over time, I don't know the scientific name for it, but it's really like it could be used as an ab machine, which I've seen where you lock your back legs and then you fall down and then you just kind of do like those reverse kind of back stuff.
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about? I don't know the name. It's freaking like that. You're like looking down, and then you're just like lifting your body up, and then like you're squeezing your glutes and like your lower back.
Activity,
a ton of hamstring.
I can't remember that one either.
Yeah, but you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I've done that for a long period of time, which I liked, and eventually got up to the point where like I'll grab a 45 plate and kind of put some weight to it too, and then really just do like high volume. I've done that. I've learned to focus on my hamstrings a little bit too, to kind of like have that. And I know I'm a little bit more quad dominant as well. So that's kind of like, it has played an effect on my knees. I've learned to squat a certain way that's comfortable for my lower back too. So there's things I've done to improve my lower back, but also as far as a particular exercise, that's one that's really good. A certain ab one that I do that's like just helps my lower back. But I don't know if there's anything that you can recommend where it's like, if you have bad lower back and want to improve it, there's something you can do.
Again, it depends on the injury that somebody has. Like going back to what we were saying with the farmer's carry, that can be an excellent workout for someone who's farther along in their back progression. But for someone who's just starting, maybe they can't handle that load yet on the injured disc, and that would be a detrimental workout. But I mean, some very easy ones to start out with, which is kind of where you'd start, is the bird dog can be a great one. It's great.
What's that?
The bird dog is the one where you are in a quadruped position and you extend one arm and one leg at the same time. So we're getting some.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I know.
So we're getting glute activation. We're getting we're squeezing the upper back. So it's great for just kind of getting everything to work together. And we can do some pauses on that as well, just to kind of emphasize, build that mind to body connection. That is an excellent workout to start. And you can even progress it more by just again, quadruped position, only one arm goes. And you can have only one leg goes. So it's just there's ways to walk that back a little bit. But I also love plank variations. Again, I like how you were talking about before, getting the whole body to work together. And you do kind of want to, like, doing specific ab exercises isn't really, again, it's hard to say for one person.
Exactly. And that's the thing, too. Even going back to the original thing, you're not going to find that one blanket statement to kind of do. And everyone's body's so uniquely different. But it's finding things that really work for yourself. So, yeah, I mean, going back to that, those building blocks, it's all the foundation to kind of like help because the whole body works together. So, yeah, you're not going to find that one exercise that's going to work for everybody always. I
will say one thing that you can kind of go with is that's kind of like a general rule of thumb, which can be proven wrong, but for someone who has pain with twisting, so like if they're in bed and they twist to get out and you feel that shock, maybe it doesn't linger, but it just kind of feels like just some pain, that generally could be some stability, some lack of stability. So that person could benefit quite a bit from exercise or stretches like the bird dog, like certain plank variations, that could benefit them. Because again, that's a little bit of a lack of stability at the joint, maybe a little bit lax. It could be from a disc injury. It could be from some arthritis. There could be a lot of reasons why, but generally that catch that you would feel. And that person might not benefit as much from stretching. Because again, if you're taking some of that support away from an already unstable joint, then we can get more issues from that. So that's just kind of like a general rule of thumb that can be disproven.
Yeah. So having all this information and knowledge, being able to kind of share it with just people at the gym, when did you have the moment where you're like, I should probably make some educational content around it?
I mean, really just kind of, I've had clients the whole time through this whole period.
Yeah, being a trainer.
Exactly. And just when I could see that I could implement it, I could definitely play around with my clients.
Yeah.
And one of them did have back pain from a disc injury when he was younger.
Okay.
And we got to mess around with that a little bit. And again, I could just see the improvements with him as well. And it was awesome to kind of see. He's like, whoa. He's like this is a lot different. And I was like, yeah, exactly. So then I was like, man, if I could just continue to do that, because again, it's like I know exactly what it's like. Mm-hmm. Like mentally, it's really hard.
Yeah.
Because again, you're thinking of all the things that you used to be able to do. I can't lift heavy anymore. I can't run. All this stuff, that was so much weight. And you're in bed. You're sitting in bed watching TV.
You're doing nothing and you're still in pain.
Oh.
That's the worst. And that's the thing. You think like, is this how the rest of my life's going to be?
Exactly. Because you always have to think about that. You're like, day 5 of the tweak. And then, you're getting up and you're a little bit better, but you're still crooked. You're like, is this it?
Yeah.
Like, did I really ruin it from here on? It's never usually like that. But
yeah.
I mean, it's like, it's scary. And I mean, like, that's a lot to think about after watching that much TV in a row. And I mean, like, it's just, and it's like, for me, it was really hard for me to stay focused on like my goals and aspirations in that pain. So like only a couple times, regrettably, did I actually like study and stuff while I was in bed. Cause I just I didn't even want to look at a book. I was just like, I'm broke. I was like,
so you're in bed with back pain, studying how to improve your back. That is,
I was trying.
That is the dedication.
But it was just so,
yeah.
It's just like, it was so just out my heart.
Yeah.
I was just heartbroken. I was like, I can't even look at this. I mean, it's so painful. So yeah, to know what that's like, it's just, it's just, I would do, if I could get the word out more, I mean, that's the goal.
Yeah, you were there. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah.
And here's one thing that's also important is that like back pain can get worse. And that's the whole thing. Like it's a degenerative process. So it doesn't mean this degeneration has to be painful. Mm-hmm. You could have a disc herniation, a disc bulge your entire life and not know about it. And you could be just fine. But if you're someone who constantly irritates it from maybe a job, a hobby or whatnot, there's like arthritic changes. There's a ton of things that can happen as a result. So it's really important that you kind of get a hang of it, get a handle of it before it starts to go down a slope that you probably aren't ready for.
And that slope, when it goes down, is that the slope where it's like, I actually need medical attention from a doctor and surgery, or the slope where it's like, okay, I really need to just take matters in my own hands and completely change my lifestyle to improve my back? So I guess more of my question is, when is that moment where you see like a spinal doctor or a surgeon, or like, because I know you said you went to the doctor, but then you had that moment where like, I need to kind of figure this out for myself?
Yeah. I mean, it really depends on...
I get the individual. I know it's kind of more of a loaded question, but...
I mean, like, it depends on, like you said, it depends on the individual, but like some things that are like, red flags, I would say, was kind of like sexual dysfunctions. You could have loss of bladder control. There's stuff like that that would just kind of be like definitely the red flag. If you start going down the slope, that's actually like that's pretty far down.
Yeah.
So you would have to get to a point. But I mean, like maybe you start to get consistent neurological symptoms, and you know the severity can increase with that. Now that wouldn't. It's always good to see a doctor. I just want to say that straight up.
Yeah.
So it's always good to see a doctor to just get their opinion, to rule out anything like a tumor or something crazy. But I mean, the slope doesn't mean it's over. So I mean, like if you didn't have neurological symptoms and now you do have it, that doesn't mean you're going to continue to have them. They could definitely still go away. But if you start to see the symptoms getting worse, I mean, that's definitely when you need to start like taking things more seriously, because it can continue to go down that route.
Yeah, it's because that's the thing that I mean, I'll always go back to what we just talked about, because it's so real, where people just want to go on YouTube and just look up like a one-stop fix shop all sort of issues, where this is the stretch. If I do this every morning, this will fix my back. It'll improve your back, but until you actually know like the legit issue, and if it's like maybe I need to go to the doctor, and exactly what you said, it's something so serious that's beyond my own kind of control, or it's like a stepping stone to being the right direction for me to take care of my body.
And you know what's kind of interesting as well is that like your symptoms will likely change. So again, these changes that happen around the disc to the disc, they are going to they're going to change your symptoms. So maybe an issue where you started out with pain with flexion, so pain when rounding the spine. Maybe as you get older, it'll turn into an extension-based pain. Maybe there would be some stenosis related to that. So when you're younger, sitting will be more irritating, but then when you get older, being sitting will feel more relaxing, and the same will switch with walking. Generally, the younger people relieved pain with walking, and then sitting is when it gets irritating, and it's the opposite when they get older, because again, the structures around the area that's injured change, and the disc loses height. That can stress out the joints around it. So it's interesting. I mean, me specifically, I was all rounding, so like rounding the back hurt. And now it's not so much the rounding, and it has gone to a little bit more extension. One thing that will flare me up to this day is very quick movements into extension. So if I dove for a volleyball, I mean that quick snap, and missing a step. So when you like miss a step and you kind of do that thing, like like, and then a combination of that little movement and then the hard impact that will get me. And it's like, I've had my back under control, but I mean, like, you can't control everything, because again, you still have the ego, but I'll say my last week was one of my worst. So this was probably about 7 months ago or so, but I sloppily filled up my dog's water bowl, and I just like did some stuff in the kitchen, and then I left, and I stepped on the water bowl, and I just slid with it.
Oh, damn.
And I fell dead in a seated position. So like just like legs out, and then like right on top of my just right on top of my butt.
Yeah.
And that
so right on the spine, tailbone.
So it just went like right up my back. And it was so ironic, because that day I was playing basketball. I hadn't played basketball in a while at that point. And I was like, I said out loud, I was like, this is probably the best I felt in a long time. And it's so ironic that was the same day that I did that. And I just sat on the ground like for like an hour, and I was just like leaning up and then laying and leaning, and I was like, I can't get up. I was like, it hurt so bad. I was like, the second I hit, I knew it was a problem. And that's the thing, like what you do that helps your back throughout the day gives you more like wiggle room to make mistakes. And then, like, that was unavoidable. Yeah. There's nothing I could have done that would have prevented that. Well, besides being not clumsy. But, I mean...
but freak accidents happen all the time, too. So when someone goes through a freak accident, for them to be able to get up or even understand what's going on with their body and able to recover, some people, that might be the freaking... whatever the expression that I can't think of, the straw that breaks the camel's back. I think that's
literally.
It. Yeah, literally, exactly that. So I mean... I'm trying to see that connection, though, from you doing these things for yourself and it's working. You showing your clients these little improvements, and your clients are like, "Wow, I feel great too." And then when did it kind of become more of a content thing for you? When did you feel like, "Oh, I can make little short form videos or even long form content and be able to kind of put these on social media platforms for my clients to see, or a potential new audience"?
I think you kind of hit with that. I mean, it's just kind of like the combination of I wanted videos that were me showing how I want things done available. Because I mean, I was talking to one of my clients for one of my other jobs, and I was like, I really want him to do this thing because he had a particular issue, and I was like, I don't really have a resource for that. And I was like, I need to just make my own video so I can say, hey, check out this video and this will help with this problem. Because I was there with him. I got to see like what was his issue. So it wasn't just kind of like randomly picking stuff. So that was part of the reason. And the other part of the reason, which I have yet to confirm, is I thought that I could do it better. And I still have to work on, being interesting and whatnot. And I'm still doing all that. But I mean, it's like social media is just all these hot takes, and so many of them are irrelevant. And how we're saying like just quick fixes that aren't usually don't usually work. So I was like, I want to come into space and I want to make it like I want to change. Like I want my people to like be like they're following me for a reason. Like we're getting like solid results. So that was the ultimate goal when doing it. I'm still working on being more interesting to get more of a following. Even though that's not the main goal, I just want to make a difference. But that's kind of what we're working with.
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes it just takes that for you to be indulged into this industry and this subject matter, and then you doing your own research. And then, I mean, even to relate to myself as a musician, for a while, I was just trying to look at like gear reviews of like a guitar pedal or a guitar amp. And for half the time, for a 5-minute video, they're just talking the whole time about just like the freaking little knobs on it, which is, I mean, cool if someone wants to know that, but I just want to know how it sounds and the playability of it. And then I'm skimming through, and then it's him playing, and he just plays like just shit. And I'm like, this is not helping me. So then like you're scrubbing through all these videos. And then at one point when I had something called Musicians Daily, it was one of my first ventures in the digital space, but I did something called demo and review. So you knew exactly that that's the demo. And if you don't want, sometimes you want someone to just sit and talk and educate you.
Yeah.
So, and then that's the review. So demo, review, that's what what you're getting to. And then I kind of fell into I understand the value of consistency, but I also fell into kind of like a theme and really kind of something that shows itself. So even with your stuff, I like the fact that you start some of your videos with like the hook. So you know what you're doing with lower back pain.
Exactly, lower back pain.
Yeah, so when you create the content, there's so much information out there too. And I like the way you talked about like your creative process earlier on, but making these videos, you kind of just storyboard some ideas that you want to talk about and go from there, or you just kind of put on the camera and you're like, hey, I'm doing this right now, and then just kind of going off on the whim. What's your process creating the content for spinal stuff?
I like to storyboard. I tend to only do it with the longer content, but all the content does better when I storyboard it. Because when I just go off the top, I mean, we're doing all the likes, the butts, the ands.
Yeah.
It's brutal. So, I mean, it is more ideal for me. I do get better quality content from that. Do I always do that? No, but I should. But scripting too hard is also kind of an issue too, because I can get robotic. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things, like, I like to not blink. So it's one.
Gosh, that's funny.
It's such a thing for me, and it's like I've showed my girlfriend stuff, and she'll be like, I don't really notice it, but I'm just looking at me, and I'm like over here, like not blinking, and I'm like just talking to myself. I'm like, please just blink. Like all these videos, I mean that's one of my things. So I'm still working over getting all the nerves and everything.
Yeah, and then that's the thing that just comes with time. I mean, I'm working on another creative venture, so I was going through a bunch of old hard drives just trying to find some old content, and then I came across some of like the stuff of me first singing on camera, and it was just like I was just staring right into the camera, and I'm like, why am I just looking only here? It just didn't seem like it seemed like I was more present into the lens than actually like what I was doing, and then it just kind of took away from like the moment, and it's stuff that I'm like, you know what, if this right here is the worst it's gonna get, it's only gonna get better from here. And that's the thing I have to tell myself. I mean, the much cringiness that comes from it's gonna be growth. It's going to be growth. It's only going to go up from here. And it's the things I have to remind myself sometimes too, because being real, you look at it, it's like, you know what? Sometimes it's so demotivating where I'm like, this sucks. And then that I guess the imposter syndrome we were even talking about early on kind of goes. And,
I think it's really cool you kept some of the older stuff. I really regret that. I deleted a few videos that were earlier, and there's such a good reference point.
Yeah, for yourself, for your personal self. Yeah.
In your secret playlist. I mean, it's just like I was watching a couple of the older ones, the ones I deleted.
Yeah.
And I mean, they were so bad. Not saying I'm phenomenal now.
Yeah.
But I mean, they were just kind of like.
Well, dude, I remember early on when you've reached out to me just about like basic camera technology advice and me coming over, and then you're like, I don't know, this doesn't really look good in that. But the fact that you have your real world experience from what you've gone through in your life to be where you are now with like spinal health and just overall wellness, and just your visual, like you know, like your creative process, you know how you want something to look. I mean, even you saying like, I want to send my client a video, but I can't find something that's good, so I'm just gonna make it myself.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, it's even with that being said, just going back to seeing where the videos were and where they are now, they've improved quite a bit. So, is there a particular spot that you want to take that, or you're just kind of going to be consistently uploading? I don't know if you kind of had like a plan that you're kind of working towards.
I wouldn't necessarily say a plan. I definitely want to up the production quality. I want to see what's next in this space. Because, I mean, I already know that people are doing the things that I try to emulate better than me. And they're always going to do it better. But, I mean, like, I want to see where can I, like, reimagine the space. And I wanted to imagine it with, like, what I've been imagining is a more gimbal work with it. So, it might be hard to imagine. But, like, I would have somebody like doing a movement that would irritate the back, and I would have somebody gimbal over to me, and I would have my disc model, and we could see exactly in the frame like what it's doing to the disc while they're doing it in real time, and then we could zoom in and out. I mean, it's just like some thoughts that I've been working on. It's a little bit harder because I'm a one-man show, and then a gimbal is obviously someone else. So it's a little bit tougher, but I mean, it's something I want to pursue just to kind of be more interactive, and then like just get a better feel of like what's actually happening to your disc during certain movements. I mean, it could be the same with stretching. So it's like I could show a stretch and then like what it's doing to that disc. And I think that's where I kind of want to see if I can insert myself. And I feel like it's going to be, I feel like there's not much going on with that specific form. So it's going to be like making some pretty sloppy ones at first. And then I feel like that could get pretty cinematic.
No, I'm following along, and it's nice because production is something that can always be improved. But I think done is better than perfect, because perfect will never be done.
I've never made perfect content.
Exactly. No, nothing's ever going to be perfect. I mean, even like this rogue setup that we got going on right now.
It works.
Yeah, it's working. It's moving the needle, because I mean, for even going back in January when I got hit by freaking little T-bone action, luckily my spine and all my stuff was good. Exactly, dude. It could have been so much worse. Like you start doing that and stuff. But even me going back there, and I'm like just overthinking everything in my head, and I was kind of even like really kind of into my own deepness and sadness, where I'm like, fuck this, I can't even like sit in front of a camera and speak right now until like I figure out my car. Then that just kind of triggered this and this but like it just gets to the point where you just gotta get in front of it and do it, and then be at your own leisure, because you're not in competition with anybody. Even like you said something about people making stuff of subject matter that's good, that's even better than what I'm doing. But it's, I mean, another cheesy quote, comparison's the thief of joy. It's something it's something I have to though remind myself too at times, because I'm not in competition with anybody. I'm trying to just improve my own value and and stuff within myself. So that's why even the point of creating, connecting with others, because I believe everybody's creative, and I love authenticity and being able to sit down and connect with people too. And I'm not the best speaker, but this is something that's got to help me, for me to even just look back at that camera and be like, oh, the fact that I said like too many times, but it's something for myself. And then also, I mean, we've known each other for quite a handful of years and stuff. And I mean, we've always,
Gold's Gym.
it's a freaking throwback, man. I mean, at Gold's Gym and stuff. Freaking RIP. But I mean, even being able to kind of stay in touch, and I mean, seeing what you're able to do. And I mean, my back rehab story, and then just all that you were kind of doing something too as well, and then even you kind of going to the content creating field. I love it. I mean, the fact that you've always wanted to kind of strive to do something better too is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's an awesome process.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, it's hard at the beginning when it's really hard to get that traction. So that's kind of where everyone falls off. But it's
discouraging sometimes, because I mean, even with you're the back rehab stuff. It's, I mean, not really instant gratification, but there's that moment where it's like, my back doesn't hurt, and like, I'm able to do this. That's great. So I try to almost take that mindset and put it into media where it's like you're having fun. This is competition for yourself. If you want, if we're going to talk about the ego thing a little bit too, but you're in your own lane, and then you might have that moment a month later. It's like, whoa, I got 1,000 subscribers.
And here's the thing: you got to practice what you preach. Because see, here's what I'm talking about. Now, I like when I make the video and I have it ready, I'm ready to post it. I say to myself, I'm like, if I can just help one person with this video, then I'd be happy.
Yeah.
And then I see that the video only got 23 likes or 23 views or whatnot. And I'm like, well, I mean, could one of those persons been helped?
Yeah.
I mean, and then it's just now you're over here like, well, did you want one or did you want 1,000 people to be helped?
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like, you got to practice what you preach. Like, if you want to help one person out, obviously I want to help as many people as possible. But I mean, like, you know, just starting out, it's just so slow. And it's just like, but I mean, I've had people in the comment sections before telling about how it helped. And I'm like, that's
awesome.
It's like, that's what I need or not. That's what I want.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's nice to see that like it's making a difference. And then that all the, my poor editing skills is finally coming together. So, I mean,
have you got any just random hate comments or just something that's just kind of negative or just kind of off the cuff? I posted something yesterday. There is a soundbite from The Secret Life of Walt Mitty with Ben Stiller. You know that movie I'm talking about?
No.
Oh, but I think I'm saying the title right. But anyways, there's a soundbite in that where the photographer like puts down the camera and he kind of says like, sometimes I like to be in the moment. The camera is actually a distraction. There's a clip of me putting the camera down because I'm like so into the band and I'm just like, this is dope. And I used that soundbite, and then the rest of the thing is just the photos of the band. And I kind of made the point saying like, hey, even though I was kind of in the moment, I still got the shot. Yeah. Someone on fucking TikTok was like, my guy, this is not the soundbite. You're using the photos for this. Just correcting me. I'm like, here's the point, and you missed it.
It's like, you got me. Like,
but I mean, even if it was like that one comment, I looked, I'm like, I can't be looking at it like that way.
Isn't it wild how like you could have 100 good comments and then the one bad one you just resonate with a little bit more? I mean, it's just like, because you think about that more, and it's just kind of like, because you know our brains like to go to negativity.
Yeah.
And it's like that can get tough sometimes. To your point though, I mean, I've had some just say I look like someone who I don't look that much like. And
who?
I can't remember the name. It was someone random. Like they're always random. And it always seems like, I'm like, I don't know if that was a compliment or not. The guy is like, doesn't look like me.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I think that was an insult. But I was like, you know.
I've gotten, I've changed my look so many times over the years, but just because, but I've had just random people come up to me and say like, you look like this guy. I'm like, sure. And they'll like just start showing me pictures. And then one recently was Giannis, Yanis. Some older guy that was like older than my dad just came up to me.
Like,
and he's like, you look like Giannis. I'm like, I kind of don't know. He's like the famous piano player. Like shows me like this beautiful Fabio picture. I'm like, I wish I looked like that guy.
So that was a good one.
Yeah, I'm like, that guy looks incredible. But that's it's always funny because especially online where people are just like either just wanting to say something quick that's just immediately thought, and sometimes just polarizing conversation and words gets more attention, and that's kind of what we're all at the end of the day, the race for everybody's attention, I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. I mean, you know, it's just I actually do remember one thing. This was actually on Reddit. So Reddit, you get roasted about anything. So I mean, like someone was talking about back pain on Reddit, and I kind of had a little like a very mild piece of input, like, have you tried this or something? And I remember this random guy came out of nowhere, and he was just being like, I don't see a doctor in your name or something like that.
Damn.
And he was just like roasting me. He had a paragraph, and then he was like, the guy was just like, don't do anything he says. And I was like, it was a very like. It was overkill. Yeah. And like the whole time it's like, you know, you don't have to try to, you know, this very like a very sensitive suggestion. Yeah. And then I mean, he just rung me over the fire. And I was like, you know what? Maybe.
See, the thing that's different about that is because you're not out here saying I'm a doctor, but you're not a doctor. You're not out here saying things that kind of go completely out of pocket. You're talking about your own experiences. Yeah. You're talking about just your own walk of life, and you have information and knowledge that you're sharing to your own discretion. And you're not acting like you're somebody that you're not, compared to some other people who kind of have a little bit of, it's hard. I don't want to just like completely just beat somebody's whole system up, but you see it a lot, especially kind of branding and social media, where somebody has a little bit of like an understanding and an idea, and suddenly they're a life coach, and they're selling packages for $5,000 a month because of their clout. It's nuts, but that's the thing. There's clientele for everybody and out there for some sort of reason.
They're
but
loud.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's like they have so much confidence.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, I envy some of that, it's like.
Yeah, it's finding that confidence and having it balanced with the ego a little bit too, because sometimes having the ego, it's another form of confidence where I'm like, that person's not really cocky. They're more confident, but I could see it being cocky, but then it's just like, maybe I'm none of these things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, then that's when some of the like a potential imposter syndrome comes in, where it's just kind of like, you don't feel like you're ready to say the information, even though that you are ready.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, that's something I battle with as well.
Yeah, no, exactly. But I mean, it all really kind of stems from the passion and just like genuinely wanting to do something to help somebody else with. So that's why I really admire what you're doing, because I mean, like, from your experiences, from what, like, our relationship, and just like your charisma that you have as the Riz, what the kids call it these days. The Riz. But I'm always a fan of just someone who's able to be consistent in what they're doing, and the fact that you have too has been awesome. And then even my own personal back injury story and seeing what you're able to offer, it's awesome. It's a great landing page to do. So if someone watched this episode, I always ask these people, like everybody this, if someone watched this from like minute 1 to minute however long this is, A to Z, what is one thing you want someone to get out of this?
I would want them to know that they need to educate themselves as much as possible about what irritates their lower back specifically. So what movements, what postures, what loads just gets them flared up. Certain movements are going to irritate you more than others. So you really have to identify those. So say if bending over, rounding the spine irritates your lower back. Well, we're not going to want to eliminate that, because that is a fundamental movement of the spine. So a way that we could modify that was getting the posture more upright, maybe bracing the core, hinging from the hips. That could take a lot of stress off the spine. So that is one way that someone could modify that.
Yeah, and with the amount of information that's out there now, it's kind of overwhelming to find particular information. But what you can find is Back Rehab on YouTube. That's you, right?
Foley Fitness on YouTube,
Foley
Back Rehab on TikTok. And then Foley_fitness with an extra S for Instagram.
I like it. So, I mean, dude, it's a nice landing page for Back Rehab and stuff. So, I mean, if anybody out there just wants to just get lost in the sauce a little bit and just educate yourself, I mean, you do a really good job of just making it not only entertaining, but just you have valuable information of content that's there.
Thank you.
Yeah, dude, no problem, man. I'm glad we're able to do this. I mean, it's freaking
wonderful time.
Since January. This has been in the making. We're back. But yeah, man, we did it.
Excellent.
We freaking did it.
All right.